Hey everybody, this is JDGaming back with another deck profile for you guys, this time on Plant Psynchro. And as you can see from the title, it's a little pun. I play Psychics for the most part. So this is going to be another Psychic variant that incorporates the Plant engine. And it's kind of you could think of it as the new version of the Quasar deck that I made, considering if you saw that deck profile, basically it played 3 Soul Charge and it got Quasar out first turn extremely consistently, but obviously with Soul Charge's limitation, that's no longer possible. Does that mean the deck is dead? No, it's just that, one, you can't focus entirely on Quasar all the time, or you could, but you'd have to change the skeleton of the deck quite a lot. And two, you basically need to round the deck out just a little bit more, or at least that's the other option, I guess, and that's the option I took, to basically make the deck function with all of its core pieces. So we're going to go through this deck one by one, basically through all the cards really fast, and then I'll go over once again the few notes that I have on certain cards, why I chose them over others, their reasons for being in the deck, etc. And then yeah, so let's get started. Alright, so for the main deck we have 3 Construction Train Signal Red. I'll explain what he does in just a bit. We have 3 copies of Crane Crane, 1 copy of Dandelion, 1 Debris Dragon, 1 Glow Up Bulb, 2 Gores, the Emissary of Darkness, double Lone Fire Blossom, 1 Neospatian Grand Mole, 1 each of the level 3, 2, and 1 Psychic Tuners, so Psychic Commander, Jumper, and Recover. We play Redox, Dragon Ruler of Boulders, Rise-Bell the Star Adjuster, 2 Spell Striker, Spore, Titaniel, Princess of Camellias, 3 Emergency Teleport, 1 Foolish Burial, 2 Forbidden Chalice, 1 Mind Control, 3 Mystical Space Typhoon, 1 1-for-1, 2 Pot of Dichotomy, triple Rhoda, or Reinforcement of the Army, and 1 Soul Charge. So that's 23 monsters and 17 spells. Then we play double Formula Synchron, 1 Armory Arm, 1 TG Hyper Librarian, an Armades, Keeper of Boundaries, Naturia Beast, and Barkion. We have Goyo Guardian, Black Rose Dragon, Stardust Dragon, Leo, Shooting Star Dragon, Shooting Quasar Dragon, Melier of the Trees, times 2 to round out the 15-card extra deck. So as with in the previous Terra Quasar deck that I had profiled, when Soul Charge was at 3, this combo still does hold. Basically, you're able to normal your Lone Fire, sack it that turn to get yourself another Lone Fire Blossom, and then when you get rid of that, bring out any one of these monsters. I'm just going to choose Dandelion for this example. If you Soul Charge the other 2 back, you are able to tribute this, get out 1, tribute this, get out the other, and the nice thing is Glow Up Bulb can take the place of the level 2 Naturia Cosmo Beat that we had to play in that previous build. Because essentially what happens is if you sync these 2, you get your Armory Arm to the field, and then, of course, you get 2 free tokens. I don't have any sheep tokens, so I'm actually using these, or I don't have any fluff tokens, rather, so I'm using these lamb tokens as the fluff tokens. I think it kind of works. Then we can, of course, send 1 card, whatever it is, to the top of our deck to bring back Glow Up Bulb. And then we can sync these 2 to bring out TG Hyper Librarian. Spore plus 1 of these ends up becoming level 2. So we get a Formula Synchron, draw 1 off of each of these. So now you have 2 cards for free in your hand. Spore comes back if you banish your Lone Fire Blossom as a level 1 plus 3, level 4 monster. Synchro with 1. And of course, you get to then go for your second level 5. So if you go Armades, you draw another card, so now you've drawn 3 cards. So this combo still lets you go 2-5-5, add them all up, you get Shooting Quasar Dragon. So as you can see, we have a card that's semi-limited and a card that's limited. That doesn't make for a very consistent combo deck. Now there was a different combo that did not require Soul Charge. You may have seen that in the Terra Quasar build that I made. But essentially the problem with that combo is that it's much more particular in what cards you must play in your main deck. And with changes like the semi or finally unlimited Formula Synchron or the return of Glow Up Bulb, I basically didn't want to limit myself in deck building options. I wanted to go for a more well-rounded, traditional Plant Synchro build. So basically, if you want, you could see the video. It'll probably be in the link in the description box. But essentially, that deck was interesting in that you were able to not use Soul Charge. If you had Lone Fire Blossom and any way to bring out a level 3 monster, you could still go off. But I didn't like that strategy because essentially you would still want Soul Charge ideally to help increase the consistency of the deck overall. That other combo is nice, but it's still a combo. You're going to have it less than like a third of the time. So essentially it isn't worth investing the entire deck for, in my opinion. And that's why we're going to try something new this time. So the main goal of this deck is essentially these guys, the Melier of the Trees. If you haven't read her effect, she is a Plant Xyz, rank 3. She needs 2 earth materials specifically. But once per turn, her ability is you can detach one of her materials in order to either Foolish Burial a plant to your grave from your deck, or target any of your grave plants and special summon it in defense position. So essentially what this does is this lets you reuse Dandelion, it lets you reuse your Lone Fire Blossoms and your Plant Tuners, which is really, really good for Synchro Summoning combos. And it even yards them so that you get your Dandelion effect, your Spore and Glow Up Bulb will come back. So this is what makes the deck run. So we basically want to make Melier as consistently as possible and keep her alive so she can get 2 of her abilities instead of just 1. So how do we accomplish this? Well, first of all, we're going to be playing Crane in this deck. Crane is basically tour guide for plants in that whenever it is normal summoned, you get to target a level 3 in your graveyard. So think something like Dandelion that you Foolish Burialed. You get to then special summon it. Its effects are negated while it's on the field, and you can only use Crane once per turn. Well, since it's a normal summon, that second drawback doesn't matter. That Crane can only be used once per turn because you probably won't be normal summoning it more than once per turn unless you play double summon, and now you just have less of a reason to play that card in this deck. So you basically normal your Crane, bring out Dandelion, stack these 2 for Melier. You can detach your Dandelion, spawning 2 tokens, and now imagine if you bring out Glow Up Bulb or something. You get at least 1 Formula Synchron right there. If Glow Up Bulb was sent to your grave through some random mill somehow, or you discarded it with Redox and you never used the Glow Up Bulb essentially, you could bring that back if it's in your grave. Now all of a sudden you get 2 Formula Synchrons. So you can see how some synchro summoning strategies start off of Melier. So obviously Melier is not the end-all be-all. It's not the goal of the deck, but essentially it's going to help strengthen our combos because we get more pieces from it. And Crane helps to bring out Melier as consistently as possible, so we run 3 copies of him. Next, of course, we have Teleport is another way we can bring out not only level 3 monsters for summoning out Melier. This is as simple as, normal summon a level 3, special summon for Commander, and then Xyz summon for Melier. But you can also bring out the other levels of tuners, levels 2 and 1, in order to synchro with much more consistency. You're playing 3 teleports and only 1 of each of the tuners, so the chances of you drawing the wrong tuner is very low. You basically have 4 shots out of 6 to get the correct tuner that you would like. And then even then, if you draw the wrong tuner, you could probably do something with it, so it's not even completely dead. So Teleport just adds a ton of consistency to the deck. I'd also like to mention here that we have Rise Bell, and essentially, if you don't know what he does, is he's a non-tuner, and whenever he's special summoned, which he can be by Teleport, he's level 3, you can adjust his level, increase it by up to 3, or you can leave it at 3 until the end phase. So essentially, he's any level from 3 to 6, so you can see how if you have this guy with Teleport and then you normal summon a Bulb or something, you can bring out a ton of synchro options because you have any level from 3 through 6 with this guy. So this is one way we get some good synchro summons going. The other way, mainly for consistency, is we play triple reinforcement of the army with Spell Striker. Only 2 Spell Strikers, and the reason is you really want to draw the Rhoda so that once it's played, even first turn, it goes to the graveyard and you have it as fuel for Spell Striker's special effect. If you don't know what he does, he lets you banish 1 spell card from your grave in order to special himself to the field. He can attack directly, and any battle damage that you would take involving this guy at any time becomes 0. So his ability is interesting in that you can peck at your opponent if they're stalling and sometimes win the game off of that if they're low. But more often than not, you're going to draw your Teleport since you have 3 of these. You play it to fetch your Spell Striker, and then you're able to normal summon any guy or play Teleport. and then you can bring out Melier even more consistently right there. Plus, it's just a free level 3 monster if you've already been doing things and have one of your 17 spells in the graveyard. So that helps. The fact that he's a level 3 Earth that special summons for free essentially makes him a really powerful aspect of this deck. In addition, what I've tried before is you can, in this deck, play this many spells, 17 spells in your deck, and safely play a Landois. What I would do for that then is play Goblinberg as a level 4 Earth monster. You'd Rhoda into Goblinberg, and then be able to special summon your Psychic Commander as a tuner, or teleport it to the board. So that works in bringing out Landois. If that works in your meta, I suggest go for it. I personally just didn't think I had enough room for the Landois, so I did not choose to play it. But with Reinforcement of the Army at 3 now, even teching in that 1 copy of Goblinberg is pretty consistent for bringing out the Landois. So that is an option if you would like it. We also have 3 copies of Construction Trade and Signal Red. So this guy is a hand trap from Dragons of Legend. He was often overlooked, but he's one of my favorite cards from that set. Essentially, when your opponent tries to declare any attack on you, you get to special him from your hand, kind of like, it's not really like a Gores, it's more like a Battle Fader. Not even like a Battle Fader, really. It's its own thing. If your opponent attacks you at all, you special it, which means it's very easy to do. Your opponent's attack target changes to this guy instead, and he cannot be killed by that battle. So, if we have our Melier on board, with 1 material left because we've already used it once, your opponent thinks, oh, I'm safe to attack it, right? Or the Formula Synchron, or the Fluff Token, right? Well, basically what happens is, sorry about that huge glare, I'm trying to avoid the middle just because of that. You're able to bring this guy out, now he can't die, and if he survives until the next turn, you have another level 3 Earth monster you can use in order to go for another Melier. So the reason we play 3 of him is essentially this guy makes Melier of the Trees work. It makes it so that you can most likely get to that second use of its effect. He himself is used to summon the Melier. You can use this along with like your Naturias or your Stardust Dragon or your if you want to play Landois, this is a great card with that as well. Basically, you can protect your strong monsters that have multi-turn effects and basically more impact the longer they stay on the board, but you don't have to play trap cards. And this lets you do that. And the reason you'd want to play this over traps is essentially traps are nice, but in a combo deck like this, every trap you draw, especially in the first 5, if you're going first, cuts down your consistency ridiculously. So by playing this, you can actually use him to go Melier first turn by going normal summon, Rhoda into Spell Striker or teleport into Commander, make a Melier, or you can protect something you already have on board. So the fact that he can be used either as a material directly or as a defense means he's superior to a trap in this particular build. We're playing 3 Mystical Space Typhoon because you need to get rid of Vanity's Emptiness. If you don't, you lose in this deck. It's as simple as that. Everything special summons, and if you see that card and you have no out in like 2 turns, you might as well just, pass to your opponent. You might as well scoop because you're most likely not going to be able to do anything in this deck if you don't have special summoning. And with Vanity's Emptiness at 3, you're going to need to play MST. As long as Vanity's Emptiness gets restricted sometime soon, we may not have to worry too much about it, but as of now, I would strongly recommend it, especially with Cliffords. There's just another reason right there that you would run that. And finally, actually we have a couple things, so almost finally, we have this. So first we have Stardust Dragon. The reason I run Stardust Dragon as my 1 level 8, it's essentially forced. This extra deck is ridiculously tight in space because everything, you want something at every level just for the fact that you can go for every level. And if you draw an awkward tuner, you can get rid of that problem by using a monster from your extra deck that's generic. The reason I chose Stardust Dragon is essentially in this deck, since you have 2 Formula Synchron especially, there are many times the best play will simply be go for a Shooting Star Dragon. He's pretty good still, despite the fact that people are playing random things like Dimensional Prison to try to get around Anti-Destruction. So, he's not a bad choice, and he does win some games on his own. Not as good as Quasar, obviously, but you're also playing it for that reason. If you bring out Quasar and then this guy isn't in your extra deck, you'll feel really sad when Quasar's 1 effect gets baited out, and then you have nothing to show for it afterwards. So this guy's needed. As a result, you might as well be playing Stardust so that you can bring the Shooting Star Dragon out naturally. So that I feel was a little forced, but it's an unfortunate consequence of playing this strategy. And then if you're playing Debris Dragon, I strongly recommend play 2 Black Rose Dragon. Right now I'm playing 1, as you can see, and there are games when I will have Debris Dragon and it'll be dead because I have no Dragon Synchros that I really want to go into. Yes, there's Stardust Dragon, and that's another reason you're playing Stardust Dragon. But the easiest thing, obviously, is go Debris Dragon. You have Dandelion and Crane as targets for this guy. You can easily special summon out a Construction Train or a Spell Striker immediately afterwards. Like, there are just so many ways. Even Lone Fire. So there are just too many targets for Debris Dragon, which suggests it's worth playing. If you do, though, you'll want the Black Rose just so you have something else to go into. I wouldn't recommend Orient Dragon or Samsara Dragon just because of space. I just feel like Armades is more important at 5 than Samsara, and Orient Dragon just isn't as good as like Goyo Guardian or even Barkion that you can go off Crane to lock down traps. Personally, I'm considering removing the Debris Dragon. It's just that I don't know what I would play instead of it. But this is basically up to you. I just recommend realize that if you're playing Debris Dragon, it works extremely well in this build, but you'll want as many Black Rose Dragons as you can fit just so that you can play Debris Dragon to its full potential. Alright, so that is my Plant Synchro deck for October 2014. Be sure to let me know in the comment section down below what you think of this deck, and feel free to try it out for yourself, either in real life, on DN or DevPro, or with proxies, whatever you would like to do. I feel like it's still a really fun deck to play. It's unfortunately not, in my opinion, a continuation of the Soul Charge Quasar deck, mainly because that deck was great when it worked, but now that Soul Charge is gone, it's just nowhere near as consistent enough. You're better off playing something like this that just has tons of options and well-rounded plays. And if you like using up your entire extra deck in one turn, this is basically the deck for you. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. This is JDGaming, and I'll see you guys next time.